So we're starting now. Pasuk Gimel. Pasuk Gimel. So Pasuk Gimel is also now is again. It's a response from the Nefesh or the Neshama to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Knesset Israel to Hakadosh Baruch Hu, the Nefesh to the Neshama. Ketapuach ba'atzeh ha'ya'ar, like an apple tree amongst the trees of the forest, right? And we're going to understand the importance of the apple tree in a minute. Ken dodi ben habanim. This is how I look at you, my beloved one, right? Amongst all men. So we had the Shoshana amongst the thorns. Now the answer is, and you are like an apple tree in the forest. Betzilo, under its shadow, okay? Himadeti v'yashavti. Hemda is a desire that disturbs the inner peace of a person. When somebody is homed, it's like Hemda lo tahmod in the Torah is like you cannot envy and desire what your neighbor has. You cannot desire his house. You cannot desire his properties. You cannot desire his wife. Right? There's an isur of lo tahmod. The hemda, the definition of hemda, is to desire something to the point where it disturbs your inner peace. So the neshama or Knesset Israel tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you are in my eyes, right, as special and as beautiful as the tree, an apple tree in the forest, and under this shadow, I desire you. V'yashavti himadeti. This is what I've been thriving, desiring. V'yashavti, and this is where I found my sit, my place of rest and of comfort. Upirio, and its fruit, matok lechiki, is very sweet to my mouth, to my palate. You know what's the palate, right?
Your palate.
Palate, yes. Here, both the Gaon Mivilna, and the Malbim will introduce very specific dimensions that is actually very beautiful. So we're going to start with the Gaon Mivilna. The Gaon Mivilna says the following. First, the overall picture. Ketapuach ba'atzeh ha'ya'ar, it's referring to the Torah that was given to the Goyim first. HaKadosh Baruch Hu took the Torah and decided to go and offer it to the Goyim. When he approached the Goyim and he said, do you want the Torah? The Sarim of the Goyim, there was a question, what is it about? So the HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, if you ask me a question about something that I want to give you, it means that you are questioning my ultimate kindness and mercy upon creation. Because I cannot come and give you something that is not good for you. So you question it, no problem. So I will answer you. And what did he do? We know that the Torah, the 10 Commandments, are made of 2 tablets, the right one and the left one. In the right one, we have the positive mitzvot, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, Shabbat, right? On the left one, we have the Isurim, Lo Tirtzach, Lo Tignov, Lo Tahmod, Lo Tin'af. So he started by the left tablets, by the second five commandments, the prohibitions. And the Goyim said no. When he came to Am Yisrael, he said, do you want the Torah? What did Am Yisrael answer? Na'aseh v'nishma. Whatever you give us, we take. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu started with the right. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, I am Hashem your God. So here, there is the Gaon brings forward something very, very specific that applies in our daily routine, in our daily life. Like the apple tree in the middle of the forest, it gets lost because the apple tree doesn't have a lot of leaves. It's not as big as the rest of the trees. It doesn't create as much shadow as the rest of the trees. But it's special. However, when you start looking at the entire forest, that's when you start making mistakes. And he says, Ken Dodi ben Abanim, you, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, are for me like the rest of the boys. But I look at you. I look at the tapuach, I look at the apple tree. I don't look at the entire forest. Because when you look at the apple tree and compare it with the rest of the forest, you start having questions. You start putting your own terms. And says the Gaon Mivilna, when this happens, you trigger from HaKadosh Baruch Hu a reaction that is no longer merciful, but adapted to your request. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to give you something. He gives all the time. All the time. But we have our own terms and conditions. Right? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, no problem. Let's follow your terms and conditions. But what you don't know is what he has for you, he wanted to give you originally. All you will see by narrowing down your requests or your terms is a reflection of your own narrow mind approach of life. The example, if you go and you pray to HaKadosh, Hashem, please make this deal happen for me. Hashem, please make this transaction happen for me. And you push it, right? Because you think it's the greatest thing. But maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows better and knows that this deal at the end is going to end up backfiring and not being so good. Or that the time that it will take for you to focus on this deal will take away an opportunity of another deal that could be much bigger. The same thing is with shidduchim. The same thing is with everything in life. So, ketapuah ba'atzayar, HaKadosh Baruch Hu rasa iten Torah le'akum. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to give the Torah to the Goyim. He wanted. Because if the Goyim would have accepted the Torah, the same way Am Yisrael would have accepted the Torah, that would have been the tikkun of the chet of Adam HaRishon, and that would have been the completion of creation. That's it, the harmony of creation. So what was the mistake? The mistake is, how does that fit? Yeah. Sorry?
There would be no Judaism in that case?
There would have been the world after Mashiach comes. Right? Where everybody would accept and embrace HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the Emet.
So funny, today's portion in the parasha, in the Rashi, it says, Yosef, when Yaakov instructed him to go to his brothers, and he knew it was dangerous, and he didn't ask any questions. They say he just went. And that's how you show the ultimate level of respect.
And emunah.
The thing with Hashem.
Yeah.
And aren't we supposed to do every mitzvah? I mean, the ultimate goal is to be able to do everything L'Shem Shamayim, just for that pure purpose.
Yes.
Isn't that the highest level of a mitzvah?
Yes. Yes.
Right? And yeah, it's good to ask questions, but when you're asking questions, you kind of...
No. So no. The questions only reinforce your emunah. When you ask a question, the whole Torah is based on questions.
Right.
Why? Because you need, through the question, you annul the negative.
And you build the positive.
Exactly. Clarity is built on the negation of the sheker.
Right. So it's just who you're directing the questions at.
I'm sorry?
It's who you're directing the questions at, right? Are you asking the questions to find out the emet, or are you asking the questions at
Exactly. Here the question is, Maktiv Bahem. Okay, tell me what's written. What's written in your Torah, the Goyim said. So Hashem it's not now arguing halacha. He said, well, just tell me what it's about. What does that mean? That I question whether or not you're giving me something that's suitable for me.
Right.
No problem. So I will bring forward. Now you created a test. You're questioning my infinite kindness. So I will put in front of you a test and see, are you going to trust me or are you going to choose to distrust me? Because you already chose to not trust me by asking that question. And they failed. Where Naaseh v'nishma, Naaseh, there's the action, the nishma, and there's the understanding. Okay? What is the answer to that? Anochi Hashem Elokecha. If you do Naaseh v'nishma, if you act and you act in order to understand, you will see the Anochi Hashem Elokecha. You will see Hashem's revelation. Where if you don't, if you question, you question, let me see how it fits with my comfort zone. Let me see if this is something I'm willing to accept and it fits my schedule and my lifestyle. Okay, no problem. So suddenly you will be challenged with Lo Tignov, you will be challenged with Lo Tin'af, you will be challenged with Lo Tahmod, and all those. Now the Torah becomes a lot of restraint and uncomfortable dynamic versus the shine of Anochi Hashem Elokecha, of the revelation of HaKadosh Baruch.
Did we read it here that the perspective of David HaMelech, I think I read it in one of the explanations here, the perspective of David HaMelech was the most beautiful perspective on the Torah, which is, the common mistake people make is that you look at the Torah as a list of obligations, and David said, I need to know how to go about life, so I look to the Torah to guide me.
Yes. Well, that's I don't know if it's written there, but that's Shiviti Hashem Lenegdi Tamid.
I think it was here.
I don't know.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
No problem. So okay. So here the Gaon puts, if you will, things in perspective. Now he says, okay, that's that Ketapuach va'atzeh ya'ar. Okay, I don't look at the forest. I don't compare you to the forest. I look at you as something that stands out. You, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're standing out. and you are, although less attractive or beneficial on a first outlook compared to all the rest of the trees, this is this is who you are to me. Amongst all the banim, among all the forces, among all the desires and attraction, this is what I want to focus on. And he says the tree has three aspects to it. Okay? You have the tree with its leaves. You have the fruit. And then you have the water that irrigates that tree, that comes next to it. Like the Gemara says, the man that was tired, the Gemara tells us, and he was tired and he sat down and he benefited, he ate from that tree, some fruits, and then he rested on the tree, he was able to lean there. And he says, tree, how can I bless you? You gave me everything. You gave me a place to rest. You fed me. You protected me from the sun. You gave me everything. So the Gaon explains that the tree, the tree, or the anaf, right, is the actions. Is the physicality of this world. The branches, the leaves represents the wealth and the physical proactivity of a person. Around the world, when you look at the world, when you look at the forest, you see a lot of it. It's filled with different types of productivities. Financial industry, automotive industries, computers, fashion. There's a lot of trees. But you have very specific trees, okay, that like the apple tree might not have a lot of those leaves. It has, but it doesn't have to have a lot. But you know what? It has fruits. Says the Gaon Mivina, what are the perot? The perot are the kids. And the water that flows next to the tree is the Torah. He says, Am Israel does not look for the quantity. We look for the quality. We look for a tree that has leaves, but most importantly, that gives fruits. Because the fruits is what will give life to another tree. So you need to have the comfort of the leaves that gives you protection, secure financial security, social positioning, and etc. But the most important is the actual apple. It's the fruit that it yields. What is the parnasa? What is the work? What is the physical accomplishment if it's not to grow beautiful fruits? If through your actions at work you contaminate the education of your kids, you don't give them the proper values, you don't give them proper priorities in life, the reaction to that will be, okay, what's out there for me? You create a behavior in your children that ends up being the question of the goy to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's in the Torah? But if the main focus is the fruit, and to make sure that you value the water, which is the wisdom of the Torah that comes next to the tree, that irrigates the tree, then you become Ken Dodi Ben Abanim. Then you become Ketapuah Ba'atzei Hayar. I don't look at the entire forest. I look at you. The Gaon explains something very, very important. Very important. We tend to forget. We tend to be drifted away by the obligations, by the this rat race. Look around you. Everybody running around for what? For money. Everybody's moving, cars, this, troubles. Everybody's moving around. Money. For the forest. We're in this forest. From the moment we wake up to the moment we go to sleep, it's a forest. When you look at the forest and you're part of the forest, the yield, the fruits that you bring to the world are fruits that are going to be asking questions. Says the Gaon Mivina, this is why we have Lo Alenu kids that have a hard time to accept, to grow, to open, to receive, to be a beautiful fruit. And we're gonna dive into the definition of the apple in a minute.
The kid's struggle is the parents' fault?
Yes. The Gaon Vilna explains clearly that if you focus on the forest and not on the apple tree, not on the reasoning of the apple tree is a tree that brings apple, and the beauty of that tree is not its leaves. It has leaves, but it's not what it's known for. The apple tree is a particularity is the beauty of the fruit versus other trees in the forest that are magnificent, tall, and all they have for themselves is a lot of leaves. The leaves is the osher, is the wealth, is the physical accomplishment. However, if this is the focus, then you cannot have ketapuach ba'atzaya. Then you don't see the apple tree. You see the forest, you see the leaves. You're dragged and driven by the immense awesomeness of the forest. But the price to pay is that you will never find the apple tree. You will never find this creation. Good?
Mm-hmm.
So says the Gaon, when you focus on the apple tree, you focus on two things. So you need to have financial stability, it's good. But for what purpose? For the purpose to protect and let that tree grow, that fruit grow nicely. The leaves protect the fruit, for the fruit to grow, to become sweet, to become beautiful, to become tasty, to smell good. Priorities. And how does the tree grow and gives beautiful fruits? Through that little river, through the irrigation of the water, through the Torah. But says the Gaon, it takes two things. He says, "Betzilo himmadeti v'yashavti." He says you have to crave and desire its shadow in order to benefit from it. V'yashavti. He says there are two frustrating situations. One, he says, which is completely tasteless, is if you don't want something and you get it. When you don't desire something and you get it, it has no impact on you. You only value something you desire. Good? If I bring you something that you don't need, that you don't want, thank you, toda rabba. It doesn't take the right place in your heart. And then there is another frustrating situation where you desire something but never get it. Here, Betzilo Himadati, I was desiring, I was craving for its shadow. So what is Knesset Israel craving for? Craving for the proximity of the shadow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? This is what we're looking at, right? The tree, the apple tree represents the emet and the connection, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's interaction with us. You can only enjoy the yishuv, enjoy the peace, enjoy the harmony and tranquility of your relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu if you desire it, if you crave it. And only then, only then you benefit, you can start benefiting from the sweetness of its fruit, from the sweetness and the outcome of the mitzvot, which you see in your children. I think I once shared with you what the Gaon, this is a very famous Gaon. The Gaon says on a memra of Chazal that we say every Shabbat. אוכלים מפירותיהם בעולם הזה והקרן קיימת לו לעולם הבא. We eat from the fruits of the mitzvot in this world, but the capital of the mitzvot is kept for olam haba, for the next world. So the Gaon asks, he says, why did Chachamim use the benefit of the mitzvot as fruits? We enjoy the fruits of the mitzvot in this world. What does the fruits mean? So the Gaon explains, says, how does a person know if he did the mitzvah or not? You put tefillin. How do you know you actually put the tefillin the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to put tefillin? You do Shabbat. How do you know that you do the Shabbat HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to do? Every mitzvah. Do we have any insurance or way to know? Says the Gaon, we have. If you eat from your fruits in this world, if you enjoy your children in this world, if your children give you nahat ruach, if you are proud of them, and you taste the pleasure of your children, of their actions, then for sure you have a kapitan in olam haba. But if chas v'shalom, parents struggle, are sad, the kids don't give them pleasure, don't make them feel good. They're in a constraint, in a struggle with their children. Hashem yishmor. It's a sign that they don't have too many mitzvot. That's how you define how much mitzvot you have in olam haba, how much capital you have from the nahat that you have from your children. The Gaon Mivilna. To the point that כל אשר יעשה יצליח. He says the Gaon, that when you have a healthy tree, meaning you have a good perspective, and look at the the overall picture that is being painted to us. You have the tree that has financial and physical aspect to it. You have the aspect of the fruit, which represents the education, the home, the shalom bayit, the chinuch, the Torah. And then you have the river that irrigates all this, that represents the wisdom. The three dimensions of a person, right? His work and his parnasa, his home and his kids and his education, and his mind, his Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu. When you have an equilibrium and an ecosystem that is in harmony with the proper focus, what is the focus? Ketapuah v'atzaya. The focus is the tapuah. The focus is the children, the chinuch, amongst the forest. This is the outlook of that allows us. This is the point of origin that allows us to put the proper perspective in our life. It's not the river that irrigates the tree that Shlomo HaMelech is focusing on. It's not the leaves of the tree. The opposite. It's that little apple. The Zohar Kadosh, and the Gaon brings it, says that the tapuach has three colors to it. It has red, it has white, and it has green. Okay? The red apple has a red peel to it. When you open it, it's white inside, but it has this stem that comes out of it that is green. These three colors represent the three verticals of the Sefirot, the three ways HaKadosh Baruch Hu behaves with a person. White is Chesed. Red is Midat Adin, judgment. Green, Zerachamim, is the center of the two. A fruit represents the outcome of your efforts, your chinuch. The connection, the deep connection that you have to have with your children, the infusion of the midot has to be based on chasadim, based on chesed, abundance, love. It has to be purity. This is the inner essence of the building of the chinuch of your children. The outer layer, which is the protective layer of the fruit, has to be din. You need to have within your chinuch interaction also a layer of judgment that allows the fruit to be protected. If you're only the inside, it's going to rotten. If you only give, if it's only chesed, it's not good. The essential is chesed, but the chesed has to be layered with din, rules and regulations, structure, punishment, reward. But it's only an outside layer. And what connects it to the tree is that stem. The stem represents the tiferet. The stem represents the connection to the tree. The tiferet represents the values that connects the tree to the fruit to the tree. The values that we pass on. Those values that create an equilibrium. It's not something you eat, it's not something you benefit, but it is something that connects you to the tree, to your source. And education, the benefit of the children, of the chinuch is built on these three fundamentals. abundance of love and purity and good midot, very rigid structure that stays as a layer to be protection around the child, and the values that connects you to the family, the values that we pass on to our children, that we have received ourselves, that connects us to the tree of life. This happens when there is hemda, when there is a desire for it. If we want it, we will benefit from it. And not only from the physical beracha of it, but also from its fruit. The fruits become matok, they become sweet to our palate. You know, there is in French culinary, if you go to France, they don't serve you a lot of food. Very little. Right? You come to America, in France, everything is small. And people from outside, they think French people are cheap because they don't give you a nice portion. But part of the French philosophy is that you get full with the taste, with the flavors, not with the quantity. So you don't need to eat a lot to feel full. You need to allow the taste and the smell of what you eat to fill you up. This is matok lehiki. The period de pri, when the action of your children should be so satisfying that you feel complete. Do not get fooled by the optical illusion of the forest. This is the Gaon Mivilna. Clear? The Malbim approaches the Tapuach as the Nefesh. He says something beautiful also. He says the Atzei Ayar, the forest, represents all the kochot a person has, all his strength, all his flaws, all his abilities and disabilities. That's the forest. A man is made of a lot of different facets and aspects to him. And inside that forest, there is a tapuach. There is an apple tree. That apple tree, says the Malbim, is the potential to create something else. Not what defines you as a forest, which is a lot of different trees, but something that defines you by what you create, not by what defines you. The midot, people tend to believe, he says, are de facto. What do you want? I'm lazy. I'm nervous. I'm angry. I'm too ADD. That's the new trend the last 20 years. What do you want? I have ADD. This is who I am. It's nachon. That's true if you define yourself as a forest. But inside that forest, there is a power of creator. There's a power of creation. That's the apple tree.
So it's potential.
It's a potential. It's a potential that yields results, that creates. And he says, כתפוח בעצי היער כן דודי בין הבנים. I need to find that potential within me. I need to find what really defines me. What I can use within me, the power I can use within me that actually creates something, not defines me by de facto. Everybody has this apple tree within him. The problem is that we get lost in the forest. And he says this power differentiates itself and will dictate with the Ashgachat Hashem how HaKadosh Baruch Hu and nature behaves with me. What does that mean? He says, if you let the forest dictate the animalistic behavior, the you people think you are. So you allow automatically nature and the forces of nature to rule over you. And then at that point, you are the product of the forest. But the second you allow that apple tree be the ruler and the decisioner of your life, and he says, what is that? He says it's your sechel. It is your intellectual integrity. If you allow your intellectual integrity take over, and when I say integrity, I mean in real integrity, yeah? The emet. If you let the emet grow within you, what you trigger is that suddenly you tap into all the nefashot, all to those in the emet within the creation that gravitates around you. And then suddenly you control everything. You control your entire ecosystem and environment. He says, this is the difference between a Oved Hashem and an Eved. An Eved, a servant, is somebody that is stuck, right? And is under the patronage and the control of outside forces. When you are Oved Hashem, you control. At that point, you are not an Eved, you are not a servant, but you are Oved, you are a worker, you are a producer. And this is how you can see your own fruits come to life. So the Malbim comes and tells us you don't have a parve situation. Or you're a servant, or you're a procreator. Or you control, or you're being controlled. What defines the two? I mean, I'll dive in a little bit. We know that everything has a nefesh, right? What the nefesh is Hashem's will for a physical thing to exist, for physicality to exist. This is the definition of nefesh. The second you tap into your emet, you tap into the neshama that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave you, or the spark of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that resides within you. The second you tap into that, you turn on all the nefashot, all the sensors, all those nefashot around you. All of them. And at that point, you control them. Or you allow HaKadosh Baruch Hu through the nefashot to guide you. Because there's no more you at that point, right? There is the spark of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that resides within you that takes over. It's called the neshama. It's called the da'at. It's called the intellectual integrity to follow the emet. Says the Malbim, it's as simple as that. When this is the way you conduct your life, automatically you annul and disable all the influence of the physicality surrounding you. You fall for the physicality, says the Mabim, you're under the influence of physicality. He says, Betzilo himalti v'yashavti. He says, in order to be able to tap into that koach, you need to crave it. The only way you can be yoshev, you can sit, you can benefit from the tzel, from the shadow of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Which is that neshama, the tzel shaddai tlonan, like we say. If you want to benefit from this connection, you need hemda. You need to desire it. You need to want it. You need to crave it. Upirio, what is pirio? So what are the fruits? The fruit is you seeing the Hashgachat Hashem. You seeing the impact of that influence in your life. The Yishakeni mineshikot piu.
Kisses.
He ends up with the Zohar Kadosh in Parashat Ha'azinu. He says the tapuach again. The tapuach represents the ashgacha. The ashgacha has three colors to it. Hashem can behave with midat adin, the red. He can behave with midat chesed, with the white, or midat rahamim, with the green. He says those three behaviors coexist. All three are very healthy and beneficial. But he says you better want to be benefiting from that fruit than not to have a fruit at all.
So there's a relationship.
There's a taste, exactly. There's a connection. He says, if you're in the yard, if you're in the forest and you don't have fruits, so you never see HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you never taste HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you never connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You're lost in that forest. But when you have the Hashgacha, and what it takes, like we said, is to allow the Da'at and the intellectual integrity to the Emet to take over, suddenly you see that there's more chasadim from HaKadosh Baruch Hu than there is midat adin. And the din is only a little layer, but it's here to protect you. The midot, the tiferet, are here to connect you to Him. So suddenly you taste the essence of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in your life, and you enjoy this relationship. So here, what the Malbim is coming again, and it's beautiful how the Gaon and the Malbim take two different approach that are so complementary. We see how the Malbim basically shows and brings to our attention how simple it is to fall under the Hashgacha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's a dedication to the Emet. But the outcome is so sweet and so beautiful. It brings life to life. It gives you the opportunity to create, to pass on something, versus just being completely lost. But it comes down to what? It comes down to the hamid, to the desire to find that apple tree and not be lost in the awesomeness of the forest, of those leaves, like the Gaon says, of that osher that is spread all over. Because at the end of the day, if you look around, everybody's running, it's a rat race. Everybody's running around for what? Yes, emet, for money. And nobody's discounting the Olam Hazeh. Not even the Shlomo HaMelech, no problem. But for what purpose? To shelter, to let that apple grow beautifully. Oh.
Beautiful.
Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem. So we finished Pasuk Gimel.
That's how you know it's the good stuff.
Baruch Hashem.
Here, Rob, here it says that in a commentary that the tree of the apple, it's small. So when you're in the forest, you won't see it.
You don't see it, correct.
It's so big, the forest, and this is a small tree.
Insignificant, completely insignificant.
Yeah, incredible.
Our neshama is completely overwhelmed by all the distractions, by all the midot, the things we picked up. We have to look for the apple. We have to look for something that allows me to create. People want to leave a legacy behind them. They want to leave something behind them. Yeah, that's the big thing. Well, by us, this is what defines us. Every step of the way, every action, every day is an opportunity to create.
Rob, how do we properly reflect on everything that Hashem has given us, whether it's our strengths or our weaknesses? Because it was almost a prescription for us to reach our potential, right? On both sides.
Absolutely.
How do we reflect on both of those things to say, I'm supposed to use both of those to reach our potential? How do you do that?
When you said the word reflect, what do you mean by that?
Meaning, it's my understanding that, Hashem blesses you to be a certain height and a certain way, and put you in a certain family and put you in a certain place, whether it's good or bad in your eyes. The menu of what you were made as was delivered to us for us to reach our potential.
Yeah.
So how do we look at our menu, so to speak, of what we are and what we were given and say, I'm supposed to use this to reach our potential? How do you do that?
So there's a few things. First of all, is to recognize that whatever qualities you think you have, they're not yours. They're just given to you, like you say, to reach a purpose.
We're renters.
That's number one. Okay, so there's no room for ego. Meaning, if you're great in math, or if you have charisma, whatever it is, you cannot take credit for it. It was given for a higher purpose. Number one. Number two, you cannot beat yourself up for flaws that you think you have also. It cannot handicap you. These are the two pillars that, if you want, blinds a person. His ego on his reflection of his qualities, and his handicap, emotional handicap, when he reflects about his flaws. Based on these two reactions, a person paves a certain way of life that could be completely against his purpose. When the person understands that both are given for a mix, and sometimes your weakness will be in your favor. You understand? It's not because that you have a weakness in certain areas that means that you're going to fail, but maybe you're going to fail in places that will make you win. So it's only once you free yourself from this illusion on both sides that you can now apply your menu, objectively.
That's beautiful. I like that.
Baruch Hashem.
Thank you.
באהבה, בשמחה רבה. טוב.
Top. Thank you, Rob. Thank you very much.
Have a great day. Hey, Andy.
All the best, my friends.
You too, Andy.
Thank you. Call too.
Today we have to prepare the shemen, huh?
Yes.
טוב.
טוב.
ביי.